Okay, I know most of you guys, but I'm Samantha Fuentes. This is my co-presenter, Brian Lemmy. He is a part of the Health and Exercise Science Department, and most of you guys know I'm biology and chemistry. What we're going to go over today is mobile learning and how we've utilized it and used it and applied it in and out of the classroom. And we're going to do more of an informal workshop, and you guys will get to actually try out some of the applications and see how we use them in our classroom. So the first thing is, anybody want to take a guess as to what mobile means, or what kind of device would fall under mobile learning? Smartphones, yeah. So iPhones, any of those Galaxy, any of those phones that are smartphones. What else? iPads, yeah. And that's the modality we use here at the CCM campus. So we have iPads, we have iPhones, we have just smartphones in general, tablets, even laptops. Laptops are considered part of mobile learning as well. So what we're doing is incorporating some of these different technologies. And Brian and I are fortunate enough to have been offered the grant through CTE for the iPads. And that's allowed us to really explore some of the options. So just so that you know, those things are available to kind of work with Shelley, and not only work with Shelley one-on-one, but Brian and I have been able to present and work together and work with other departments to kind of see some of the tools that they're using. One of the things Brian will be going over a little later is Google Drive, and I had no idea what it was about, and now I love it. And it's really great, it's really helpful, and now I can see why he uses it in his classroom, and maybe potentially how I can integrate it into my classroom, and I've just started working with it. What I'm going to go over in the first part is two different apps that I use for two separate courses. One of the things that we probably all know as far as technology is you can use it throughout any discipline. And I've used it in AMP1, human bio, ecology, and environmental mainly for some of those courses that I use that. I'm going to first go over ecology and how I've used it in ecology. I know most of you guys know what ecology is. It's just a branch of biology where it looks at the interrelationships, the relationships between organisms and the environment, or organisms and organisms. So one of the things that I have my students do is make a leaf identification project, which I have some copies here, which I'll pass around a little later. And then I also have my students do a forest composition comparison. They have to go to an upland location, they have to go to a floodplain, and identify some differences between the two communities. The structure, the composition. One of the things that are so crucial is species identification. They need to know this is a red oak, this is a pin oak, this is a white ash versus a green ash. And if, in a traditional sense, I was sending out my students, I would use a field guide, right? If I sent, I'll use Greg since I saw you first. If I sent you out into the woods, Greg, even if I went over for 3 hours about all the different common trees in Morris County, and I sent you out in the woods and said, walk, and the first 30 trees you bump into, literally walk into, identify them. And you had this. You'd probably be able to do it, but it would be really intimidating, especially to a student that just got introduced to a field guide. All they're seeing is hundreds of different trees. Where do I even get started? I have no idea what I'm looking at. Okay, she told me to do this. This crazy lady wants me to remember all these different trees. There's no way. There is a way, and traditionally it was hard. I know it took me a really long time to kind of figure it out and get established and comfortable. So I'm going to pass those around so you can kind of look at what a field guide is. But instead of using a field guide, or not instead of, but with supplement to using a field guide, what I use is a application called Leaf Snap. And Leaf Snap, and you'll see that you guys have some leaves around the room on white pieces of paper. What it allows you to do is use the silhouette. Leaf Snap, literally take a picture of the leaf, and it uses the silhouette to give you a starting point. And I say just a starting point because sometimes it gives you the exact species and it's right on. But depending, you'll get a couple of options. Some of the leaves that I gave you are pretty distinguishing in their silhouettes and the shapes. But if you, for example, looked at American beech, it looks just like a slippery elm or an American elm or black cherry, very similar. So you'll have a couple of different options and you have to look through then each one. But at least now they have a starting point. Now I can use my field guide and look through and see which which potential tree I have. All right, so what I want you guys to do is I'm going to slowly go through how to use this application, and then I want you guys to play around with it after I give you guys some directions on this first one. You should all be broken up into your groups and have your iPads. So the first thing that you're going to do is press, it's a little extra dark, yeah. I think it'll be all right.
There's another light over there that has floodlights in the back.
Yeah, well, it's a little too dark.
Yeah, but I
We
don't
tried
think
it.
for the camera,
Cause
maybe.
yeah, and the one, can you see good? Sure, all right. Okay, so if you guys can, turn your iPads in a vertical position first, okay? And if you didn't already, press the home button, which is the only button on your iPad. And you should see the same thing I'm seeing up here. We're gonna go to the second screen and just swipe over. In the top corner, or not in the top corner anymore, right here in the middle, you see a little black icon with a leaf. That's the application that we're going to click on. And you should see some kind of fruit or flower or even a leaf that's coming up on your screen. Everybody see that? Okay. We have a couple of different options. It is hard to see on here. There's a couple of different options on the bottom. Can you guys see those, or should we turn down the lights?
We can see them on our own.
You can see them on your own. Okay, so there's a couple of different options down here. The first one is just browse. This allows you to just look at different leaves. So here we see on the left-hand side a panel of all different types of species. And you can just scroll up and down, and it's given by first name, common name. I can also switch over to last. And maybe I know that this tree is an oak, but I know nothing else about it. But at least I know it's an oak because I see acorns, or I see helicopters and I know it's a maple. I can scroll over down to M and know that I'm looking at maples and then get some choices from there. Or if I'm an expert, I can go to scientific name. Maybe I only know Caryovata, and I can go to scientific and then go over to C and see that it's the shagbark hickory. So you can scroll through on the left-hand side. On the right, which is a little hard to see, which you'll see better on your iPads, is you can look at different images of the leaves. Some of the leaves are varying, so it depends. For example, the sassafras, which I'll go through with you guys, has a couple of different leaf shapes. It has 3 different potential leaf shapes, so it might be different. So on the right-hand side, you can scroll through and see the leaves, you can look at the flowers, you can look at the fruit, what does it look like, and then you could even look at the bark. Some other things that you'll notice is on the top right-hand corner, there's a little book. If you can, click that little book, and you'll see more information. Okay. We see some general descriptions of the species, and more importantly, we see a map. We see a geographic range map where the species is. So I go in the woods, and I see that there's no green shading in New Jersey. What is that telling me? It's not here. I am not looking at that tree. And so many students will be like, I got it. I have blah, blah, blah. And I said, what are you even talking about? That's not even in New Jersey, right? Not even in the East Coast. And then I say, look at the map. And then they're like, oh, okay, forgot about that. So this is really helpful. Also on the bottom, we see 2 buttons. If you click EOL, it stands for Encyclopedia of Life. Is it going through? Yeah. And it should bring you to a another link, and what you can see is even more information on this tree. You get 132 different images of that tree, a much broader definition, more specific definitions of the tree. You get some background information. So there's a lot of information that you can just get through using this. So what I want you guys to do, we're not going to go over nearby species because this is not going to apply as much. We'll talk about collection in a minute and some of these other options. But what I want you to do is go over to the right and click what looks like a lightning bolt and click Snap It. Does everybody, you might have a little box that pops up that says location, services, just press OK. And then just take your iPad and take a picture of your leaf.
Does it matter which way, horizontal or vertical?
Vertical, yes, yeah.
Okay, you did it.
It might take a minute or two for some options to load up.
How do you take pictures of these things? I'm so bad with my phone.
It doesn't, I don't even think it pulls up anything. I think Brian was saying he took a picture, or his girlfriend took a picture of her foot the other day, and nothing came up. Oh, Kelly, I'm so sorry. Why don't you just join this group right here, and one of the other groups, so you don't have to work by yourself. And then you just want to be in the vertical position. So if you, and you need to be in that. It's okay, you missed it. No problem. Okay. And then under snap it. And then you're going to take the picture in the vertical, and you have to have it right over it. And you have to literally be right on top of it. You don't want to angle yourself when you're taking the picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Did everybody get a picture? Okay. Now, everybody has different leaves, right? So focus up here for a second. I have a bunch of different options, right? And what my first option up here is sassafras. It happens to be a sassafras. By looking at this silhouette, does this look the same? No, so I probably wouldn't think to keep going further. I might just go to the second one or the third one and say, oh, I think it's a tulip tree. That looks most similar to me. So what I tell my students is really important. Once they're given this list, click on it. So click on whatever your first choice is. And now you want to scroll through the different images. So here, if I look at this second image, it looks just like the leaf I took a picture of. The first image, it did not. So that's why it's important to look through. So first look through all of the different options of pictures that you have. And they're using this in the field. They wouldn't be taking the iPads out there. What I tell them is it's great to use your phones. This is a time where I'd let them bring their phones out into the field, take pictures, and then they have everything on the tree. They can look at the bark, they can look at the twig, they can look at everything they have right there in the field, rather than taking the leaf with them home, putting it in their backpack and looking at it 3 days later when they don't have everything else to look at, which they still do. But you can look at all those pictures. Even further, we can do some of the same things that we did. We can go to that little book and get more information. We can see, is the sassafras even in our area? If it's in our area, we know we probably are on the right track, okay? So what I want you to do for the next 5 to 10 minutes, or not even, about 5 minutes, is take some time, play around with the app a little bit. You can switch around some of your leaves. And you'll notice I brought with me a little worksheet. You don't have to complete it. This is just kind of a little exercise to get you familiar and some questions that I would ask my students that are important about the different species. So you can take some time and play around with that a little bit. Go on. Here's another leaf. Some of those other leaves over there on the right-hand side. I think it's in mine. Yeah. Perfect.
Sam, want us to play before we ask any questions?
You can ask questions now if you want.
Have you done kind of side-by-side comparison and see what the, I don't know what the right word is, retention or knowledge about this is with using the manual guides versus using something like this?
I haven't, because I kind of have them use it in conjunction. I say, here's a great starting point, because the technology is something they feel comfortable with. So I say, here, use this as a first point if you want. You don't have to, but you always want to be able to still use the field guides and know how to use them. I don't quiz them or test them on particularly using the field guides, but I express to them that if you move any further after ecology, you're really going to need to know how to start using them.
Yeah,
And you can't really use
the field doesn't have
correct. And this is just a nice starting point, and it doesn't work on every single leaf. So like I mentioned, if you took a picture of a American beech, it looks just like 10 other species, because it's just a simple blade leaf. And when they take a picture of that, there'll be 30 different options. So at least they have some starting point to now look through their field guide to kind of give them a starting point.
Pictures. Is this thinking with other people in the class, or
Just the other pictures taken with that iPad.
And that's, so this.
And that's what's coming up as collection, yeah. Some of the other,
Your students
Are
have
we
done.
still in this?
correct,
The ones that have been done in the past.
correct, yes, yes.
This is a free app?
This is free, yeah. So this is really nice because all the students can get it. It's a free app, it's available, easy to use. What I am going to pass around to you guys is I mentioned that I had my students do a little bit of a leaf identification project. The really good ones were picked up obviously by the students. So not that these are not up to par, but they're not as nice as some of the other ones that were submitted. So you can kind of pass them around. Some are a little better than others. Hello. And you can kind of see a little bit about the project they had to do.
What class?
This is for ecology.
And then what's the prerequisite?
Prereq is general bio 1, and then the English and math. Yeah, they have to have 016. They need that there too. If you want, you can join with Kelly and make some friends and help each other out.
So they probably love doing this stuff. Yeah. They love doing this.
Just anytime the iPad comes in the room, they love it.
And they get pretty excited.
Anytime the iPads come in the room, you wheeling that cart, they love it.
Oh, yeah.
But specifically Sam, do they enjoy it?
They do. They like it and they don't. So some students love the project because then I give it to them the very first day of class. And then for the first like 2 weeks, I go over a couple of different trees every time we meet in lecture and lab. So they have a broad understanding of major identifiers, what's the difference between an oak and a composite leaf and a simple. So they have all this foundation. Some love working together and getting out into the woods and cutting the trees, but others, they just hate it. So it depends who's taking the class.
Take it out in the field.
Does anybody have any questions? Anybody run into some hiccups? Oh, okay, so what you would have to do is then, family.
We're little faces.
That would be something that we would have gone over with the students, but it's a way of characterization. So we start with really broad.
Right.
And then we go really narrow, down to species name. Yeah, we start plant, is the kingdom.
Sure.
Then we go down one, and then down. We go kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, correct.
Okay.
And we go down all these levels, and one of the levels is family.
Family, oh,
And you
that's
know
right.
you're looking at a family name because it usually ends in day or ACA.
One of the Latin names or
Yeah.
another name? Not this guy.
No, that's the
That's-
scientific name, which
okay.
you're correct. So either you would have to apply your use of the field guide,
Okay.
or you would have to go.
I'm gonna get this up on my Kindle.
You have to go to the Encyclopedia of Life.
Okay. What's the other one?
Encyclopedia of Life.
I'm very impressed. Is that funky and bacterial? Is that funky and bacterial?
No, not
No,
for
it's
this.
plants.
Oh, no, in the Encyclopedia of Life,
Yeah.
yes, but
Okay.
not for
No.
leaf
yeah,
snap,
no.
correct. Okay, so you're in a different page here, I don't know what happened.
Okay. What is this? This is an actual album they made.
Sam, what technique do they use to press those leaves into the?
They have to, at least, I tell them, at least around 2 weeks, they just want to put it in between paper and under some books. That's it.
That's how you do it.
And that's how you can serve it. And you
then
want to
you
make
glue
sure,
it after that?
because the paper will, I'm sorry.
And then they glue it?
And then they glue it, Elmer's glue, just regular glue. Yeah, because if they just put it in books, it'll get all crinkled because the paper absorbs the water. Excess water.
Okay, so we're looking for the family name. Oh, there's the right now. Oh, here's the pen. Yes. Look how restricted
Gotta
it
get
is in
started on another
That's interesting.
I think I can find, she's on something completely different here. Yes.
How long do you actually use these iPads?
For this app? No, I just introduce it in lab for about the same amount of time I'm doing it with you guys. 20 minutes, here's how you use it. Now, if you want, use it when you're doing your projects or when we go out in the field. I'm gonna bring all the field guides, but here's your options
Okay.
if you feel more comfortable. Okay, so here,
All right.
here's the family.
Oh, and so you got this through brief summary by going to the
Encyclopedia Life, yeah,
Right, okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
So
you'll notice some of
Laura,
the-
it's in the Laurel family. What do you?
Yeah. Oh, this is where you have to, you're not gonna get it from this. You either have to use the Encyclopedia of Life,
Name is
under the little book, or use your field guide.
So all they list here is the genus and species.
Correct. Correct, and now if you want more detailed information, you're gonna have to click on it, and then you're gonna have to go to Encyclopedia Life. Yep, and then you're going to EOL.
Oh, right.
And then, oh, sorry.
Which is
Okay, let's take a picture.
So I went to Encyclopedia Life.
There we go.
And then I clicked
There's something for everybody.
and then under detail.
Put it in and let's see what happens.
So we're gonna talk about it.
That's kind of cool, right?
And then
And you can see, and then you have all those, and it tells you which Hazel family, Emily. So,
You guys have a handout with your names on it?
okay, so we have to wrap up on this first part. Does anybody have any other questions on the leaf snap? All right,
So
we're gonna, I'm sorry.
We went to nearby species, found the college.
He did,
Yes.
I did, I was very
But
impressed.
now what?
No one has used this on this iPad, so I can take pictures. If you activate the location on these iPads, I can go out, take pictures of them, and then you collect this library of some of these images.
I mean,
And then other students can say,
this
oh,
is
this
facing
person went
back,
here,
but maybe-
and on
maybe there's a way
campus,
to
next to
do it, so
this
it's looking-
location, they're supposed to
So you're looking for a
be
front
here.
facing or?
Yeah, I
rear
was just
facing?
wondering, yeah,
So
because when,
No, it's just that you have
but
to
there's something
activate
inside
all
there that,
location.
I'll look for it.
Service
Because
levels
this guy
and
has
Shelley
one,
just
so,
wants to point on these.
Yeah, I don't think this has a rear, I think it just has a front.
Oh, okay, it's only.
I believe, yeah, that's because I don't see one on the
All
back.
right, and, let's see.
Oh, okay.
So I can get Leaf app on
What do you
this.
They might have it in the
Okay.
the Amazon App Store. They have a lot of things in there. So they
Yeah,
might.
they do.
30
Yeah.
certificate programs
Okay,
and 70 instructors.
yeah, and you're saying, how would you?
None of them are gonna use this app, because it's just not in any of our courses.
Correct.
But
So how did
how would
I
they,
find it,
how
let's
would they
say?
find an app that would be appropriate?
All
You
right.
can work with
Very
Shelley.
nice.
Shelley just looks through and she'll be like, hey, Sam, here's a bunch of great apps that I think you would use for exercise science or
Now that
AP
it's-
or business. And then you just
I
have to
thought you were
go
sitting by
through.
yourself.
So you go to the App Store, and on the App Store, I sometimes on my free time will just scroll through and I would say, mitosis, I wanna see if I can find an app on mitosis. And then they'll give you a couple of different applications. And then you just have to play around with it. So there's no like master database that says, hey, this is the course and there's these great apps for this. That would be really nice. But it's just kind
It's
of.
essentially just doing an internet search.
Exactly, on the iPad under
Looking through Wikipedia.
then they would have to pay for it. Shelley has bought some, there's like, exercise plans where they click on the different muscles, and she had to pay for that. So they come, you either come out of department, and actually my department set aside some money for different applications. It's not a lot, but we're talking, if you're getting it on $99, there's $5 applications.
Right.
All right, what we're gonna do is switch over to something completely different because we still have Brian to go. What we're gonna go over next, I'm just gonna quickly give you an intro and just show you how to use it because then you're gonna apply it to what Brian will go over next. So what I want you guys to do is click on the home screen button. And you might have to swipe to get back in. And it doesn't matter if you're in the vertical or horizontal, but if you can, is everybody on that home screen, they see the same thing as I do? Click that home screen button, okay? And if you are vertically, it's still gonna be on the same page. If you're horizontally, it should still be on the same page. But what we're gonna click on is medical, down here. Everybody see that, medical? And then you're going to click on the 3D brain. This next application, if you guys can just focus for a minute and not play with them just yet. Maybe I shouldn't have had you go into them right away. All right, what this application is used for me, is I've applied it to Human Bio and AMP1. The students have a really hard time visualizing some of these structures on the brain. Yes, they have all these models, but being able to rotate them and view internal structures, and it highlights them and puts all these names together and gives you a lot of information. It's really helpful. So I'm gonna click on it, and if you guys can just follow along with me and look through. What you see is a big brain, right? And you can literally grab it and you can rotate it. You can go up and down.
We don't have that.
Yeah, ours didn't do that.
Ours,
either.
ours say upgrade now.
Oh, click on the little X in the corner. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay. I just hit the button that was highlighted. Okay, so everybody see something similar to this that I'm at, or no?
Right, so, and then just drag.
You see this?
yes.
How do you get the menu on the right?
I will show you.
Okay.
So everybody should just see this, right? This is all you guys see. On the right-hand side, you should see a list of things. You should see structures, information, labels, search, right? Everybody sees that. Don't click on them yet. What you're able to do, one, is just move the brain around. If I put 2 fingers on the screen, I can move the brain around. I can take 1 finger and I can rotate it. I can look at an inferior view. I can look at a lateral view. I can look at a superior view. So that's just one thing. Now let's say my instructor says, I want you to know all about the limbic system, since you mentioned it, right? What I can do is go to the top right where it says structures and click on that. And then I'm gonna scroll through to L, and find the limbic system. Maybe I didn't know, I thought it was one structure. Now I can visualize and see, oh, there's several substructures that make up the limbic system, right? Now, I see all these substructures. What are they? I have no idea what they are. I see pink things, I see blue, I see purple and green. I know it's hard to see on here, but on the right-hand side, you can click labels. And if I click labels, it puts labels on it. Now it tells me I'm looking at the amygdala, or I'm looking at the epithalamus. So now everybody see this a little bit? All right. Focus, bring it back over here. Okay. The only other thing I want to show you is if you click on the capital T up here, and it's going to give you information. It gives you a general description of what the limbic system is. So now you would know, oh, it's tied to the emotional. When I smell a skunk, I have this inclination to think, oh, I hate that smell, it's bad. I have this emotional tie to smelling something, right? So this gives you an overview. It also gives you a case study. And if you scroll down a little further, it tells you, well, what are the associated functions? What happens if I damage this structure? Okay, it tells you all these substructures that are on the labels. And then further down, which is really nice, it gives you some research. And you're able to click on it, and it will take you over and divert you over to Safari. But now you have all this other information and journal articles pertaining to those different structures.
What did you have in those questions?
So to back up, nope, all I did was I am, let's say I'm just here and I see nothing. I'm gonna go over to info. So click the info, and you're on it. Now just take that black
Yeah, we're on it.
and scroll it up. Scroll it all the way up, and now you can click on it. So click on any of those. Yep. Yep, the light gray. And now you're in there.
And then to get back.
You see that? Anybody else not able to see that?
And then how did you get back from, once you clicked here, right?
Once I click there, if you double click the home button and you just scroll over, it brings you back to 3D Brain App. So now if I want to go quickly to the Leaf Snap, I could just go.
Because I thought that was one we recently opened.
We just recently opened it. If I want to close it, I have to swipe it up to get rid of it.
Okay.
So let's say I don't want this anymore. I swipe up, it's gone. Help save my battery a little bit.
Okay.
And then maybe I don't want someone to know what I was recently doing. Swipe up, it's gone. Alright? And then you're here. Alright, so we're gonna have to finish up with just this. You're going to play around with this app a little more, but we're gonna switch over to Brian, and he's gonna show you a little bit about Google Drive, and then he's gonna apply an assignment, or not an assignment, but a fun workshop applicable to this 3D Brain app. Do you guys have any quick general questions? Okay, we'll have question time at the end. All right. Brian is up. You're welcome.
Has anyone used Google Drive before?
Yes.
Ah, so a couple familiar people with it, good. Some of this might be kind of general for you, or you might learn something you might not. Google Drive is a very powerful thing to utilize, especially when you're talking about in terms of collaboration. I use it personally, and I have my students use it, and I recommend that my students use it, and you'll see why in a moment. So if you're not familiar with Google Drive, this is the computer version, and this is what it would look like, the user interface right here. So it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of options. This doesn't look very cluttered because I chose a different name, not my personal one. If you were to see my personal one, it would be an absolute mess. But this is generally what it looks like. So you have different options to create different things. So as I was saying, my personal one tends to be a bit of a cluttered mess. If I want to change that, which I'm working on, it's going to take a little time, I have the folder option. So I can actually create a folder, which I've done here, and then I put all the documents in it, I can label it, put documents in it. You can also create a document, which is exactly like Microsoft Word, or relatively close to Microsoft Word. Presentation, that's actually what I'm using at this very moment. So presentation is the slides, it's having PowerPoint. Spreadsheet, spreadsheets is rather just like Excel. Form I've used a little bit. It's actually very interesting to use Form. Has anyone ever been to the CTE before? You ever sign in at that iPad in the beginning? That's Form. Yeah. So I actually asked Shelly about that, and I run the internship program for my department. And I actually send out a form to all the sites that my students go to. And they just fill it out very quick, and they love me for it, because they say at other schools, they have to handwrite all these long forms or type up these long documents. I put in some questions, and I just put in some answer or questions I'm looking for. They fill it out, they love it. It takes them less than 5 minutes. It puts it all back into a spreadsheet for me, and I can analyze it.
And are you able to migrate from Microsoft Office back and forth?
You can, absolutely. So if you have a form open, a spreadsheet, presentation, document, whatever it is, drawing I don't have much experience with, but I've learned a few things about it recently. Haven't played with it myself. You know, when you upload a picture or you scan something into, let's say from a scanner to a computer, a lot of times you're in Word, you want to try and manipulate it or write on it, you can't. Apparently with drawing you can. So I don't have personal experience with that, but that's what I was just recently learned. In terms of migrating it into a Microsoft product, you can actually just go on File and then Save As, and it has options. You can save it as a PDF, you can save it as whatever format you like, or you can download it. And then that way it'll open up whatever's on your computer.
And you can go the other direction as well.
Yes, you can. And when you actually go the other direction, it gives you the option if you want to keep it in that format, so the Word format or the Excel, whatever you're utilizing, or it gives you the option of converting it to a Google Docs. It's actually helped me a couple times. So your students have Apple computers, sometimes they have Microsoft computers, some of them actually use a Linux program. And using Microsoft doesn't always convert it properly. So then you get some kind of code all over the screen. From my experience, instead of having to email them back and say, send it to me in a different way, I upload it into Google Drive format, and it fixes it for me. So, not to try and confuse everyone and complicate things, but that's just some ways I've utilized it. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I'll ask you later. Because I've been trying to, no, I mean, just because I've got a Chromebook and it's great.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've got a whole ton of, you know, of course, old PowerPoint, old Word, old Excel files. And so you're saying that I can just open them up and then in my Chrome, well, I don't have to take anybody's time there, but but I've been sort of stymied in how to do that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chromebooks should be pretty easy to do. They should just upload it for you.
Upload it somehow
Yeah.
into Google Drive, okay.
Another great thing about using Google Drive, another reason why I absolutely love utilizing it and encouraging my students to do so, is you can share it. And you'll find that out in a little bit as we use them here with the iPads. But you can share it through a link. It gives you an option at the top, it's a link. Or you can share it by inviting people. So you can plug in someone's email address and they'll share it right with them. And it gives you more options, which I'm not going to get into too much detail about today. So you can invite people in to look at the document. Elaborating on that a little bit, so now once I share it, I can utilize, I can set permissions. So I can grant access to certain people. For example, right here with the name I created for the school, for CCM, so I don't want to use my personal one with my students, I gave the option of editing. With my personal one, I own the document. I can transfer that ownership if I choose, but in this case, my personal one is the owner. Shelly here can view it. So I set the permission where she can view it. That means that she can only go into the document, can't change anything, but can just view it. Can't even comment. Can't do anything. She can download it though. When it comes to commenting, which I gave my friend Brett here, I volunteered him, he can comment. And I'll show you that commenting in a moment. So he can write me messages, you should change this spelling is awful, this looks good, change this paragraph, so he can communicate back and forth with me. Elaborating a little bit on the link sharing, which is great when you're sharing with a lot of people, which is just this link up top here. By default, it's set for private, meaning that I have to invite people in and put their email address in. I can make it public. So I can, if anyone Google searches and happens to find it, they can pop right into your document. So if it's something you really don't want anyone else seeing, never click that one. This is one I use quite often, and this is anyone with the link. So if someone has the link, again, this right here on top, anyone has that link, they can click on it, they can get right into the document, they don't even have to have a Google Drive account. No sign-in required. So that's the one I tend to use quite often. So this I call sharing with the masses because I share this with my students. So when I share a document with my students, this should look rather familiar for everyone here, Blackboard. I use Blackboard a lot because with the iPads, they can get right into Blackboard, sign in themselves, and then they can get right to the link. It just makes it a lot easier for everyone. So as I set up the link, I usually set it up, this is the old way I used to do it. I used to just put a blank sheet and then I'd put the link. They'd have to cut and paste it. It became a little complicated. Now I just set it as web link. So they can just hop right into Blackboard. They can go right to the web link wherever I set it, and then they click on it. It takes them directly into the document, which would look something like this. So this is, one of the classes I teach is nutrition. One of the assignments I like to have them create almost like a wiki, their own personal study guide, is with the vitamins and with the minerals. There's quite a few there. So I have them grouped together and they work together with it. What I tend to do is I put the directions right on top. So I want them to grab it from certain legitimate sites, a lot of government sites. They have some good information for the students, and I like to show them, don't just Google search something and assume that it's good information. So I like to guide them in that sense as well. So I put the directions on top, and then I put where I want them to get the information from. And they just start building. And you'll see how this works. It's actually, I like to say, almost quite magical, the way it kind of builds. This is just an example of one of my, well, two of my students rather, in a group. I wanted them to do vitamin D. So they found the information on vitamin D, and then they typed it all into the document. And this is what it looks like. This was the final product of it. Another way I utilize it is for presentations. So if you ever have your students doing presentations, sometimes you want a rough draft. Well, if you create a document, again, for them to go into, they can give a rough draft, and then everyone in the class has access to it, so they can get a general idea of what's going to be presented for that class, or for that topic, rather. Like I said from the start, one of the biggest reasons why I utilize Google Drive is because of the collaboration aspect of it. So as you can see here, I was talking about earlier with my friend, you can communicate back and forth, they can comment. This is what it looks like, almost like an instant message. So it's real time, you can see it back and forth, you can communicate back and forth. This cursor would be me. This is the people that's actually in there. It's my father, volunteered him as well. And then this would be the other individual that's in there. It designates them a color. And you can literally see, as they're going through the document, you can literally see where they are, what they're doing. If they're highlighting something, typing something, deleting something, you can watch it in real time. Again, that goes with that collaboration aspect of it. Very powerful stuff. Another great thing is the revision history. What's nice about Google Drive is if you're ever working on a PowerPoint, for example, or a Word document, and all of a sudden power cuts off, computer shuts down for a random reason, whatever it may be, and you lose that document, you have ways to recover it. This saves every little thing you do. Type one word, it saves it automatically, but it saves it into the cloud, so you don't lose anything. almost sounds like it can be a little negative if you want to go through a whole paragraph and all of a sudden you say, I don't like that. But what's nice is they have something called revision history, which is located in File. This is what it would look like. So you can go back, or let's say someone makes an edit and you want to see what they did. You can actually go back and it tells you exactly who did what and when. And then if you click on it, it will show you those edits or what they did, and you can always revert back to whatever you want. What's nice with students, if you have them collaborating back and forth, let's say on a research paper, you can see who did what and when. So now you can see how detailed one student went or the other, and you can see who did what kind of work. And you can also see how they came up with their paper or the information. So you can see how they work and they build. So again, also a very powerful tool to have for the classroom. So Google Drive is far from perfect. There are a lot of, not a lot, but there's a few issues that can come along with it, and there's a few I've run into. I've had some great students in the past who've been very patient with me as I was trying to utilize this in the classroom. So hopefully I can give you some things I came across, and maybe if you decide to use it, you won't run into these same issues. So some challenges I faced. If a lot of people are on at once, the best thing you can do is organize that document. The first time I ever tried this, and I thank my students because they were so patient with me. If you don't organize it, all of a sudden think that there's 20 people trying to type in the same exact spot at the same exact time. It doesn't know what to do. They start erasing each other's work, all of a sudden certain letters pop up and numbers pop up. It's a disaster. So that's why organizing the document, you can avoid that.
What do you mean by organizing?
I'll show you in a moment. It can be a little complicated. Just me going through this might sound a little complicated. What you want to try to do is, again, learn it yourself, but you also want to be as specific as possible with the students. Especially when you're writing out an assignment, you want to be very specific, step by step, what you want them to do. Mobile devices, the iPads. One of the things you want to be careful with is logging out, because if you don't, we share these iPads. We share them with whoever utilizes them in their classroom. So they probably see hundreds of students each semester. If you don't log out, someone can go into someone else's Google Drive and they can manipulate, do whatever, look at personal information. So just make sure at the end you stress log out. Sometimes it's hard. I recommend giving yourself 5 to 10 minutes because you do have to collect them and make sure you have all of them. So if you were to actually utilize Google Drive in the classroom, give it about 5 to 10 minutes before, make sure everyone logs out. You might even want to check it yourself. And as I was saying before as well, experiment yourself because it can be a little challenging. You can go very in depth with it, or you can kind of catch on to it pretty quick. But again, play around with it before you introduce it to anyone else or even your students. So now this will actually answer your question as to what you asked before. If you can, grab that sheet that's right in front of you. It should have what group you are. So if you can with your iPads, just hit that home button just to wake it up. And it says slide to unlock, just swipe to the right, it should unlock it. Now you're going to see what Sam was using before, the 3D Brain app should be there. Just tap that home button again. Hit it one more time. And it's going to be the last time, I promise. Hit it again. Okay, you should have, your home screen should look relatively close to this. You see a folder that says Google Products.
Oh.
Okay, click on that. And then from here, click on Google Drive. Good. Everyone there? Good.
And so this is available, sorry, to run into it.
No, it's fine.
All students could, if I'm doing something where a small flipped class, a small bit of the class will be flipped, so want them to do stuff at home before they come in, they could use Google Docs
Absolutely.
at home. Yeah, okay, great, because any of the, like you say.
Actually, that actually brings me to another point.
Yeah.
Not sure if everyone's aware, but the student email addresses are actually Google derivative. It's Google based. So they can use their credentials, their CCM credentials, to log in.
Oh, so they can sign, when it says sign in with your Google account, you can do
So
that?
they actually automatically have that because they have Google, it's Google-based email addresses,
Oh.
Are the staffs also, or no?
not the staffs. What I did was you can actually create your own, and I just created the lemmy@ccm.edu. So when I sign in, I just use my email. That way, again, so they don't have my personal email, something we're all trying to avoid. So I created one of my own, and again, it lines up with my CCM email. You can link it to your CCM email as well. So everyone have this screen up? Okay, just hit get started on that. So here's your sign in. You should have right in front of you on that sheet, should have your sign in information. Just use that. So it says email, you don't have to put @gmail.com, just put the username, whatever CCM guest you are.
Can I try, can I use my real CCM account?
No, because you're not gonna be a shared user
Okay.
for today.
But I could do that at home.
Correct,
And so
and,
can they?
and yes,
That's
exactly, exactly.
Because this would be a way, okay.
So erase all of that and put in this information, CCMS, Brian and son.
So to get the and sign, you just hit the 1, 2, 3 on the bottom left-hand side.
It's case sensitive, right, I'm assuming?
Yes.
And the sign.
Oh, no, pass.
I got it.
Okay, and then you can just click on the keyboard on the right-hand side, it says go. That should sign you right in as soon as you get that password all set up.
I think it's mad, he said it's mad. Okay.
Okay, everyone in there?
No.
Not yet?
We just have one icon.
That's fine, I'll guide you right over to where the documents are.
Guess. Oh, it's.
Justine, did you get it?
Brian, while you're waiting, how much time do you find in class that you spend with teaching them how to use the app versus
You can't
using
do it.
the app to teach?
You can't use your,
They're relatively quick, most of them.
typing
And
skills.
you're talking
You know,
primarily
it's
traditional students.
Word.
How about non-traditional students?
Both tend to get it pretty easily, as long as you're very specific. That's where being very specific of what you do is very important.
Perfect, now you're
And
in.
you do walk around, you are gonna have to help. There's a little learning curve at first, so just be prepared for that. If you do decide to use it, there is a learning curve at first, but then once they do it, it's very easy. They hop on very easy and it just gets them right in the document. Because if I do it on Blackboard with that link, it just takes them right into the document. We don't go through this whole process. And then they can just start editing and doing all sorts of whatever they need to do. So it depends. All right, everyone, sign in.
Yes.
All right. So what you're going to do is you'll see right here in the corner. It looks like a bunch of people. Just tap that with your finger.
We're not in there yet.
You just go there, and now you see the document.
Okay.
All right, so you should actually see the document. I had shared this previously. So I sent this in through the invite to these login credentials beforehand. So just click on the CCM, Google, and 3D Brain. Just tap on that, and that should bring you right into the document. So this is my way of, this is how I utilize it in the classroom with my students. I have the directions right on top. Are you starting to see everyone pop in there? Who's CCM guest 1? Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah.
So everyone else in the document? Good. All right. So we pretty much skipped all the way up to 7 here. But again, in the classroom, I would run it right through the steps for the students. I usually put this on the board first and project it from the computer first, just so they can see and work through it. And it gets them right where they need to, right into the document. So you have your assignment on note card. Click on, we're going to go back to the brain structures now. So this is where that home button, you're going to double click it. So tap that home button twice. And you see on my screen, it kind of pops up. This has all the opened apps. Just tap right on the 3D Brain app.
Great. And we can go to
Okay.
Double click.
Yep, double click that home button.
One you only need to click once
Okay.
to bring it up.
So You just give that quick double tap on the home button, and you can go back to Drive. So what I want you to do is, I want you to fill in this information for me, based on which group you are. So you might want to write down
So now we have to go.
this information, and then type it in here.
Yep. So we have to go back to the information.
Yeah, you go.
Okay.
And it's in alphabetical order.
And then you can double click that home button, and you can bounce back and forth if you wanted to.
And you're in the limbic system, so how would you go and find the columns then?
That's correct.
So we could click on group one even if it was.
You could. Yeah, you could. You can change, you can alter anything in here, because I gave you
And
the
then it's in
permission to edit.
alphabetical order.
Can we just cut and paste, or do you have to
fonts,
actually
yeah.
retype?
You can cut and paste, yeah.
So how would you cut and paste?
And it depends on the assignment, so if you want your students to make the resume, it should be
Hit
different.
and hold.
Okay.
Hit and hold from very steady. Work on here. There we go. You hit and hold like that. Gives you the option.
How much more? Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, 'cause my fingers weren't working.
All right, so let's.
Did you guys hit it?
Right.
Actually, I got it folded.
So if you want to glance up here for a moment, you'll see group 4. Who's group 4?
In your face.
Great job, group 4. Group 4 is already putting the information in. So we're actually seeing this in real time.
Can we just highlight it and cut and paste it?
And then someone
You
could go into
could.
group
It's a
four and
bit-
erase
I mean, for you guys, yeah, you can do that. But for, yeah.
I want
no.
to right click, cut, paste, and drop it.
Hit and hold.
Can you go back?
On the where do you want to cut paste? So you just put your finger on it, hit and hold, and then a little magnifying glass will pop up.
For the copy and paste?
So we're here.
There you go. And then you just drag these.
There we go.
What you want to copy.
You see how
copy.
one
And then just
dot.
tap the copy right at the top.
And then you get copy. Oh, they went away.
And then you can just double tap it
Oh,
out.
yeah, sorry, now I erased you again.
That one.
Come up.
And you guys mentioned, it's really nice to have some people get into, let's say, a wiki page, and it's just like a study guide.
Sure, it has to be at a certain
And so
point.
their homework, obviously, make sure that they
Once we
properly
do that.
cite and not
Then we go back.
just plagiarize.
And then go to your structure, and then hit and hold again. And then paste.
Yeah, I can see.
So again, if you look, if you just want to glance up here really quick, you can see everyone starting to build on the assignment. So this is almost like making a study guide. But now the students are doing it.
Okay. So we didn't quite get the whole thing, but who cares for today?
Yeah, okay, and if you scroll down, let's say you, oh, why is yours not showing everybody else?
Just me, no, they did refresh.
Oh, so,
And do the same thing, hit it twice.
Brian, for some reason theirs is not coming up to see everybody.
It lost connection.
Oh, there you
So
go.
hold down right in front of you are. See, let it go.
Oh, there it goes.
There you go.
Oh wow, look at that.
Cool.
So now if you see someone else's work and you say, oh, this is completely wrong, you can start,
I'm not gonna
you
question
can,
it.
you can go in and fix it or make comments and say, hey, group 4, you made a serious error with
Okay.
blah, blah, blah.
Now, hold your finger down. Hold it down.
When you're doing group activities like this.
Very nice.
usually-
That's what I
I
could go back.
Had problems
Two is, let's say you're looking at a document and you're not in group 5 or 4.
So far, I've been lucky. But you have to be careful because they do have
You don't want
cameras on
everybody
them.
in the class studying.
So the iPads have cameras and things, so you have to kind of watch the students, make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. What you can't do is I do put it on a board like this.
Yeah.
I'll put that up first so that they can see the directions, and it gives them step by step how to get into what they have to do, like Blackboard, so like this like this.
Leaves already?
But then once they get over here and they start typing, they start scrolling down, so I can see who's doing what. Yeah.
Oh, the family? Where's your,
Hey,
where's
you
your
can
family?
literally type right into it.
Are we done doing it? Sure. We just need to have this series.
We're fine.
You go to that, when you have that, a picture of this thing up? Yeah, there you go.
Brian, how would they write a comment? So let's say they notice there's a mistake in group 4
That little
stuff.
button up here.
See where it has that little instant message?
Yep, that's what I hit, and then,
Yep.
Snap it, sorry. And if you can snap a picture of it.
There we go. So then you put your comment.
Why do we have to-
There we go.
And then you can write your comment if you want, and everyone else can go see it. Play around with it, so you just kind of learn, get used to it, feel a little more comfortable with it.
Let's send it.
Oh, check.
Yep.
Come up again. Once it comes up though, you know that thing that
Did
says-
you guys get their comment? Did you write it to
Encyclopedia of Black
everybody else?
Family.
Group one?
All
Group
right,
one,
so
did you
I,
get their comment?
I switched this back over to the computer.
No, she said good job.
I don't know.
Good job. So now you know CCM guest user two said good job. Now you're just going to click the pencil.
But it doesn't show up, the comments don't show up on the document.
And then,
What do you want to
On
do?
the one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then you just
Oh,
type.
they're up there. Oh, that's
You
what
just
it's on.
click that one.
They don't show up on the document.
Yeah.
I guess it won't on that. I mean, because when I'm on the computer right now,
Check.
I click the comments, and here it is.
Oh, no, but I thought they would show up like.
Oh, yeah, on the computer. They changed it. They made an
No, I
update
see what
recently.
you're on.
And then you just, and then you can release it out of that.
All right, so if everyone can bring their attention back up here really quick, this is what it looks like from the computer. So it's a little more in depth when you work from the computer as opposed to the iPads. So you, as the teacher, I would recommend doing it this way. Gives you a little more detail, and you can do a little more. So here's everyone signed in, and it tells me who's in here at the time. We had someone play around with the comments, which was great because now we can check it out. So here's the different comments, CCM guest one. So I can reply, resolve, I can do whatever I want with that. So now I can see that comment history. Now I was talking about revision earlier, if you want to make sure the students are doing what they're supposed to be doing, you can go to File and then see Revision History. See how everyone on here shows me who edited. If I click on that, it'll bring me to that actual time frame and that change. And it shows me these are the changes that were made at that time and who did it. So that's how revision history works. So also with your question, if you're wondering if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, you can jump on revision and check it out real quick. Scroll throughout the document.
Can you just do that again?
Okay. I'm not sure if it's on the iPads. I don't think it is. But on here, if you're on the computer, you go to File, and you go to See Revision History. And then over here, it gives
Oh,
you...
you don't think it's on the iPad?
It's not on the iPad.
Oh, it's on the computer.
Yeah, the iPads are, the computer's a little more in depth, and you can do a lot more with it.
Oh, no, I've run into this thing.
Okay. Again, if you ever want to see the revision history of the document looked like at that time,
It's probably here, though.
it might be on there.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how to get the. Because it does
So that should give you
Oh.
a good idea of how Google Drive works.
So now I'm noticing it doesn't show up what we put in or what the other people put in.
Let me take this off, and then it should pop up.
Oh, and now you do
Yeah.
that.
Now it has
So what
everything.
did you do?
Oh, there we go. See?
So what did you actually do to click from it just being the,
The revision history to here.
well, in other words, it didn't have what we put in there, first of all, it just had like the directions. And then you switched over and showed what you put in there. How did you change that?
What I did was I went to that revision history, and then wherever I click on that revision history, it brings me to what it was at that time. So see how right here,
No, same thing.
Nobody had entered it.
no one really entered anything.
Oh, the draw.
That was actually the same.
But
So when I go to today,
let's say you put.
today at 10:03, it shows me
Under that art button
who
that
did
you're
this.
saying, and you put.
And then it'll just give me an idea of what the alterations and changes that were made. And if I want to, I can restore that revision, which means I can start back from that point. So if you start writing out a paragraph and then you found that, I didn't like this, you can go right back to revision history, find a spot where you liked it, and then you just click restore, and it'll restore whatever that point was.
So, okay, it's just one application.
No, that's what you guys just did. Remember you used the brain map and you put it into one. So you can do it that way if you wanted to have a sharing and then actually go.
It is.
Art, she was mentioning how art will have standard picture, and then the architect will write comments right on it and show areas where, okay, you should improve on here or wherever.
But that's not an app. Like, I don't think it's that the law.
No, I'm sure
is
that
not
they're
just
gonna
that we have to use it. So we can have it, you know, I think, I don't know if we're working on it, I'm not sure.
If you're using
They're
it
always
outside of the
on.
classroom,
Probably
then it
right.
would work, because they're not gonna have all iPads anyway. If you're using it in the classroom.
And again, there's nothing wrong with using multiple apps, and it's easy to get in and out, as you saw, it's just double clicking, copy and pasting and things like that, so.
That would be nice instead of, so then you can see what every group does
And then
when
you
you
can
put your
comment on
problems
it,
up.
and then you can say, okay, now everyone go back and comment on each other's.
Because I was thinking that worked, we had talked about the other day, just
How
having
do you
someone use it like.
get out of
show me,
sight?
we're gonna have problems, go probably solve this.
Yeah, you won't even disturb anything. You can get right out if you wanted to. So I'm gonna go to the, yeah, you can
That's right.
I know, if there's not be point one till 10:15.
All right, so just to, one last thing I want to address. Go through this whole process. Give me one moment. So, last thing I really want to mention is more of the take-home message that I want you to take from this. The iPads themselves, or just the mobile technology in the classroom itself, really enhances that classroom experience. I mean, Sam can probably tell you, if any of you have used it before, the iPads. Every time I'm wheeling this giant cart around, the students get excited when I'm walking into the classroom, or they see me walking up to the classroom wheeling this cart around, because they know the iPads are coming. They love it, absolutely love it. It changes it up in the classroom, enhances the classroom experience for them. Again, with collaboration. So, they're working together. I usually group them together no matter what, because I like them to get that collaboration. I like them to work together. So this isn't just collaboration with the Google Drive that you saw, it's in general. And I think, again, you can also agree with that. One of the biggest things is communication. Communication is vital for personal life, professional life. It's one of the things we want our students to walk away with, be able to communicate properly. I've noticed that introducing the iPads in very fast, within probably about the second class, try to get an assignment with them, they group together, and then before you know it, they become very comfortable, and they become buddies. And I have them say the assignment out loud after they're done with it. What ends up happening is, from that semester on, and I started doing this about a year ago, from that semester on, I've noticed that the classroom experience has just increased. The discussions have increased. Everyone feels a lot more comfortable, because you break that ice. The iPads are a great tool to do that with. Fortifying the material. So I showed you with my vitamins assignment. I utilize that because, again, they research and they find the information. They find where to get reliable information from. So it fortifies that for them. Again, I said before, class participation. You'll see a drastic increase once you introduce these into the class. I have a lot of hidden agendas as well, so kind of them beforehand. Not just to make the class a little more fun for them, but again, enhances everything within that class, and enhances all the different skills that they need in life and the communication. So I recommend everyone give it a try. You play with it a little bit, try it on your own.
Show them how to log out.
Oh, yes. This is the important part, logging out. You get back on your iPads. Okay, click that X in the corner. See in the upper left-hand corner should be an X. Just click on that.
Oh, yeah, we did that.
Now click on that guy in the left-hand, upper left-hand corner.
They're lost. Yep, not there.
Not there? All right.
Not there.
Sure, just point us out.
We'll
Okay,
go back
that's it.
to
Get
it.
rid of the keyboard, then the
Okay.
S, and then the little guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're in the wrong school.
It's okay. No, okay. So what you're
All right,
gonna do
good.
is click the X that you
Okay,
mentioned
for
on the
one
corner,
moment.
and then.
You guys have that up?
Going to-
Look like that? Did you log out already? If you did, that's fine.
I think they're good now.
Okay.
All right.
So you click on that name that's there, whatever you are, CCM guest 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. Click on it, hit manage in the corner there, and then just tap on remove. Remove again.
That seems like.
And then that's it. they're out, their name's out of there.
So you need to get your students to do that,
Yeah.
especially
I
this year.
didn't see
If
that.
they're using their own personal things at home,
cares?
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when they're using the iPads,
Yeah.
if you're using it in the classroom, if you're
Yeah.
using it for outside assignments, then it doesn't matter, stay logged in.
Yeah.
So here they have to.
Do they have it powered down?
And then they just turn off the iPads.
Okay, not powered down.
Alright, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you
welcome.
very much.
Thank you.
If anybody has questions and you wanna hang out after,
Yeah,
and if you guys wanna contact us, I did bring my card with me and we can write down Brian's as well if anybody has questions and has anything further.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you too.